Hi all, I have an interesting game encounter to show you from a number of perspectives. This game was a blitz game actually between Magnus Carlsen against Ernesto Inarkiev. This was in the World Blitz Championship at the tail end of last year in 2017. So let's see what happened. E4 from Magnus, C5, and now Magnus uses a secret blitz weapon that maybe he had investigated to some extent, A3. So this is a wing gambit idea. I've always considered gambits like this in the spirit of fun chess, and if you remember Alexander Alekhine, he loved doing pawn sacrifices in his early career especially to get dynamic games. So for me there's a link between wanting to offer a pawn in the opening for initiative and this kind of spirit of fun and enjoyment of the game, passion for the game. So let's see, knight c6, but especially in blitz, this can be expressed, I believe, more easily without being cruelly punished from a theoretical perspective. Already knight c6 to me doesn't seem that precise. In live book, g6 seems to be the preferred move as well, which kind of justifies as well my comment for me. And this is, I've also played this myself because it seems that if white's going for b4, you really want to tap into this diagonal. So I believe, my opinion is that g6 is more in line with trying to exploit the downsides here. So anyway, knight c6, b4, and black took. So black is giving white some sort of dynamic compensation by doing this. After a takes, knight takes, d4, d5, c3, the knight goes back, e takes d, queen takes, and now knight a3. So there's an intention of knight b5 to threaten knight c7 check. And you'll note here that a6 doesn't help because there's a pin actually against that pawn there. So that can still be played there. It's quite a nuisance move. Black plays bishop f5, and we do see knight b5, threatening knight c7 check. So black reacts, having to give up a pawn, it seems. Well, he plays rook c8. So white actually regains the pawn with knight takes a7. After knight takes, rook takes. It's too dangerous to take on c3, it would seem, because of rook a8 check, for example, among other things. Black plays e5. We have knight f3. E takes d4. And now, funny enough, in this position, white can actually, it seems, technically get an advantage by playing queen takes d4. Magnus didn't do this. This continuation here is actually quite favourable for white. It's too dangerous for black. Well, we can't take on c3 here. I think this is too dangerous because of bishop d2. So even though it's hitting the bishop, I think bishop d2 here, it starts to get too dangerous because the bishop's hit as well, and there's things like bishop b5. So this continuation is actually quite favourable here. If we look at this, bishop dropping back, rook takes b7, that's quite nice for white. But Magnus played knight takes d4 instead, so knight takes d4. And here, bishop f5 was played. Knight b5, hitting the queen. And perhaps black should have played knight f6. But remember, this is just the blitz game. Technically, black would be doing fine with knight f6. But he actually took on d1. King takes. Bishop c6. Bishop d3. So not minding about g2 here. There's a lot of pressure if the g2 pawn's taken. Bishop c5. Check. Knight e7. Bishop a3. Bishop takes. Rook takes. Rook d8, hitting the bishop. Knight d4, that's shielded. King d7. Rook a7. Some pressure's mounting. Rook he8. King c2. King c7. Rook b1 with the threat of knight takes c6 and taking on b7. So black defends b7. f3, knight d5, and here white cashes out with knight takes c6, and it's actually better for white now. We have king takes c6, bishop b5 check, so yeah, just skewering Okay, but King B6 seems to be a useful resource against this. But guess what White plays now, if I give you 5 seconds to pause the video. White play. What did Magnus play? Okay, Rook takes B7 check. Yeah, very important to get a big advantage here. Now, Black actually, if he did take with Rook takes B7, then this is good. Bishop takes his check, and this ending is very good for White. This is a very good ending for White, and yeah, so yeah, that wouldn't be very good. Instead, here though, we have a big controversy emerging because knight e3 check, an illegal move was played. Knight e3 check, and I can't play it because it's an illegal move actually, but you can see it on the board there. And yeah, knight e3 check, yeah, because the black king's in check, and Magnus instinctively moved his king, and then Inarkiev stopped the clocks and claimed the victory on the basis of an illegal move. That Magnus had made an illegal move. So the initial arbiter awarded Inarkiev the win. And then Magnus asked the chief arbiter, who overruled that arbiter, and gave Inarkiev the option of returning to the game from the position arising after King D3. But he refused to play, or maybe this position actually. In fact, he has to do something about the check. So he refused to play, and Magnus Carlsen was awarded the win. Inarkiev appealed the chief arbiter's decision, but his claim was rejected by the appeal board, and Carlsen's win stood. So it was, yeah, a bit of controversy here, but it is kind of technically lost for Black. Yeah, before that first illegal move, I would have thought it's the first illegal move that counts actually, and if there is a debate, to just go back and play from this position. Yeah, I mean, I think in the ideal world they should have both agreed to play from this position, in my opinion. So yeah, a bit of controversy there. And okay, the game, but because of the controversy, I wasn't going to cover the opening, but it's a shame that it's buried in this controversy. It was an interesting use of the Wing's Gambit, Sicilian Wing Gambit, which is an interesting weapon for Blitz Chess. But I think, yeah, it requires precision to gain any advantage, as in this case. So there was a moment where I think Mike could have actually got technically a good advantage as well. But it's a great surprise weapon. The nature of surprise weapons, especially in Blitz, cannot be overemphasized. Okay, I hope you got something from this. Comments, questions, likes, shares appreciated. Thanks so much.